Okay, we're ready? Okay, are we,
Yes, we do.
good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Happy
Again.
holidays, happy second day of Hanukkah. The snow has stopped outside here in Albany. I'd like to welcome all of our directors. I'd also like to recognize Kevin Eunice, who's here from Empire State Development. Emily is here from the Research Foundation, as well as Bob here representing the SUNY Poly Foundation. We're glad you're here. Thank you for coming. I'd just like to ask any directors if they have any potential conflict of interest with regard to the topics we'll be discussing on today's agenda. If you do, could you please let us know that? Okay. Let's move on to the approval of the minutes from the October 17th meeting of the Board of Directors. They're in your packet. You can review those and take a look at those. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve those minutes and a second.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Thank you, Kristen.
Yep.
Thank you, Robert. Are there any comments or questions regarding that? All those in favor of accepting those minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to move on to the Finance Committee report. Kristen Proud is chairman of our Finance Committee, and she has a number of resolutions that she's going to be introducing. And I'll turn it over to Kristen.
Thanks, Bob. The first is a resolution related to approval of the annual plan. The bylaws of the corporation provide that there shall be submitted to the board by the president for its approval an annual plan, which shall set forth all anticipated revenues and expenditures, as well as indicating the current fiscal year, showing approved expenditure levels, including any approved changes, and estimated income and expenditures through the end of each period. It would also show the prior fiscal year, delineating actual income and expenditures for such period, and the next ensuing fiscal year showing estimated income and proposed expenditures for each. The 2017-18 annual plan was submitted to the Finance Committee of the Corporation upon recommendation of management and finance staff, and upon a motion duly made, it was approved by the Finance Committee with the recommendation that it be brought forward for consideration and approval by the full Board of Directors. So I would turn it over to Bob Magna if he has anything that he wants to add in terms of the substance on the revenue and expenditure side.
Again, I would point people to the similar chart that we used for Fuller Road for Fort Schuyler, which is titled 2017-18 Proposed Annual Summary of Revenue and Expenses for all facilities. And I would basically make the same claim that this is a conservative estimate of revenue and expenses that we're trying to put out there. I would note two pieces. On the revenue line, I would note that the 5-year loan row, you'll notice that that 5-year loan, which was helping to finance Fort Schuyler activities, no longer is producing revenue. It is essentially being replaced by the operating support row, which is $5.7 million, which is coming to Fort Schuyler through a state grant process. On the operating expenses line, I would note we're being fairly conservative and trying to recognize actual personnel expenses that are being incurred by Fort Schuyler and the folks that are working on Fort Schuyler projects. And so you notice the uptick there in personnel operations. And then, just as with Fuller Road, you can see that there is a relatively large expense associated with professional fees. Again, that is largely associated with the Southern District court proceedings and fulfilling informational requirements and things that we've been asked to do. So other than that, I think there really isn't a significant changes in other lines.
Any questions or comments on that? Okay, so I'd like to ask for a motion to adopt Resolution 167, approving our annual plan.
Motion. Second.
Thank you, Robert. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Resolution 167 has been adopted. Kristen, we'll move on to Resolution 168.
Yes, Resolution 168 is an approval of contract for financial advisory services. As we discussed in the Fuller Road Management Corporation meeting previously, there was a joint RFP issued by FRMC and FSMC for a financial services advisor to provide financial advice and guidance for managing and structuring debt portfolios and to provide financial assistance on all financial aspects of FSMC. 3 firms submitted proposals. There was a 5-person evaluation committee that evaluated those proposals based on the criteria in the RFP and based on the results of the scoring. The evaluation committee recommended to the finance committee the selection of Prague as the corporation's financial advisor. I would note that the RFP process in its entirety and the award recommendation were conducted in accordance with FSMC's procurement guidelines policy, and that the Finance Committee of the Board adopted a resolution approving the selection of Prague as the qualified independent advisor for financial services.
Okay, I'd like to ask for a motion to adopt Resolution 168 regarding the financial advisory services.
So moved.
Thank you, Joan.
Second.
Thank you, Robert. Any discussion?
I do have one question. So it was a joint RFP. Is it anticipated that the services for Fort Schuyler and FRMC would be distinct in terms of when we engage and pay, or do we see overlapping services there to be provided?
Potentially, we see overlapping services that would be provided, but I think for now, given the structure of the 2 boards, they would be for relatively distinct projects.
Okay. Any further discussion on Resolution 168? Okay, all those in favor in adopting Resolution 168 as described by Kristen? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, Resolution 168 has been approved. Let's move on to Resolution 169. Kristen?
Thanks, Bob. Again, as we discussed in the FRMC meeting, FRMC and FSMC issued a joint RFP to procure outside legal counsel services in various practice areas. Those practice areas include bond counsel to provide advice regarding existing or new debt issued to support the corporation's capital investments, and also to provide technical legal assistance with respect to specific transactions that may arise. 4 firms provided proposals in response to this RFP. An evaluation committee reviewed the proposals submitted in response to the RFP according to the evaluation criteria contained therein, as well as in accordance with the procurement guidelines policy, and recommended that 2 firms be pre-qualified to provide these bond counsel services based on the anticipated volume of work. Allocation of general or specific assignments would be based on suitability of the firm, including, among other factors, appropriateness of the firm's identified expertise for that matter and cost. The Fort Schuyler Management Corporation's Finance Committee approved a resolution authorizing the president and treasurer to enter into a contract with the highest scoring firm, which was Harris Beach.
Okay, I'd first like to ask for a motion to approve Resolution 169.
So moved.
Thank you, Robert. A second?
Second.
Okay, Joan, thank you. Any discussion with regard to Resolution 169? Okay, all those in favor for adopting Resolution 169 for approval, authorizing the corporation to enter into a contract with Harris Beach, please say aye.
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 Any abstentions or nays? Thank you. Resolution 169 has been approved. Thank you, Kristen, for that work. Let's move on to new business. Is there any new business? Hearing no new business to be proposed, I'd like to open it up for public comment. Please limit your comments to 2 minutes. Is there anybody from the public that would like to make a comment? Okay. Before we adjourn, I'd like to thank our board members for attending this meeting and for your service this past year. You've been very helpful and very important. I remind everybody that this is a volunteer role, and I want to thank you for your service and the work that you provide and the wisdom that you provide, certainly to Bob and the rest of the board, and I want to thank you for that. I'd also like to wish you all a happy holiday season. Enjoy time with your family and friends. It's a special time of year, and have fun. So I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Bob,
Yes?
I'd like to make a motion, please, that the board conduct an executive session
Okay, yes.
pursuant to Section 105, Subdivision D of the New York State Open Meetings
Yes.
Law, relating to discussions regarding proposed, pending, or current litigation. Subdivision F, relating to the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person, corporation. And Subdivision H, relating to the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property. And pursuant to Section 108, Subdivision 3 of the New York State Open Meetings Law, relating to matters made confidential by federal or state law.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion.
A motion?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Joan. Second?
Second.
Okay, Robert, so moved. All those in favor of moving to executive session?
Aye.
Please say
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for all of you that attended, that are not on the board. We appreciate you being here.